Normally on Periscope, I might get 30 people watching me on Periscope, and that's fine. Okay, y'all know I don't care how many watch or don't watch. I'm just doing as I'm told to do in terms of the Spirit of the Father, putting forth His word. But I did notice today that there was 100-something people watching on Periscope. You know, it's amazing. If you do something with exercise or with diet, uh, a lot of people like are suffering, and they respond to that. Like most people, a lot of people don't recognize the spiritual food because there's so many voices in the earth out there. But you put something out there that's either related to exercise or especially related to weight loss and diet, man, I mean, people respond to that because all people around the earth are suffering, in these last days in terms of their health. And so a lot of people are looking for answers, or they're looking for inspiration, and so the people that are seeking for the word by the grace of the Most High, by His Spirit, the Father's Spirit is inspirational. And so that's why we put forth the word first. But there's a lot of people that don't know that. They don't understand the truth. Like I said, they're confused, or they're in some Christianity or some other religion. They don't know what's going on. They're not awakened, but they're still suffering, and they're looking for some sort of inspiration. And so they'll gravitate to these videos that are either about exercise or diet. I mean, I do it myself because I'm looking for ideas. I'm looking for different recipes. I like recipes for different. I'm doing the ketogenic diet right now. I've been doing it for a little over a month, and I'm really enjoying it. And because myself, I've always had a problem with sugar, and so this is helping me with that. But so yeah, I had 100-something people. Look, I was shocked. I said, all these people come to look at me doing this crude behind workout, but hey, it's just what it is, right? So I put that on YouTube, and today, right now, we're going to our normal, as they say, normally scheduled program. We're going to go into Romans chapter 10 today. Isha, because I'm starting so late, we're not going to do the normal Bible reading that we normally do, and I apologize for that, Isha, but we're not going to do that this morning. I'm going to pray, and then we're going to go right into the word. Did you check Frankie's computer, Isha, to see if he can do what we talked about last night? I doubt it based on what we said, but I just wanted to know if he was able to do that. But I don't think he is. I think what we said last night is probably true. So he's just going to have to deal with that. And we talked to him about that last night. He's just going to have to deal with that. So he's doing a good job. Tell him I said he's been doing a good job. Okay, tell him I said that. He's been doing a good job. Tell him to continue to do a good job and to act like the Ak I know he can be. Just, let him know that. I mean, I want to encourage him, okay? Most of y'all don't know what we're talking about, but Esau knows what I'm talking about. All right, so let's have a word of prayer. Most High Yahweh, I am again very thankful. We are very thankful and grateful for all you continue to do for us, for all you continue to show us, for the mercy and the patience you show toward us with many mistakes and errors and things that we have done that we know are wrong and that we are ashamed of. You have been so patient with us and blessing us. And thank you for Messiah, who is your grace. Messiah is your grace. And we thank you for extending your grace through him. And by him also us receiving what we're asking for this morning, your perfect spirit of righteousness to come upon us, your perfect righteousness to guide us in your word, that your name, Yahweh, in your name alone, Yah, will be uplifted and honored and glorified. Or higher Yahweh, in the name of the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, we pray. Amen. Okay. Yes, we have been studying Romans chapter, hold on a second. We've been studying Romans chapter 10, we've been studying the whole epistle of Romans, and we are now in chapter 10. We started chapter 10 last night, and we're going to continue in chapter 10 today. And as normal, what I would like to do, as we're doing Romans chapter 10, what I would like to do is do a little background because again, Romans chapter 10, as we looked at verse 4 last night, you saw Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to all that believe. And we know that the Christians take that and they twist it to mean it's the termination of Yah's law. And we know, as we studied last night, we know that that is a falsehood. It's representing Messiah as a representative of the Father. Messiah is a Father's representation in flesh. Okay, Messiah is also called the Word made flesh. What that means is I want to also explain this as I'm doing that, not to be confusing, but when the Most High is talking about the Word, sometimes he's talking about the prophets, the Torah, the Psalms, that's the Word, right? Sometimes he's just talking about the covenant because that is the Word. You hear what I'm saying? That is the covenant was what he spoke from Mount Sinai. Okay? Ak David, Shabbat Shalom to you. The covenant is what he spoke from Mount Sinai. It is the word that he spoke from Mount Sinai that the children of Israel heard, as we read last night in Exodus 19, they heard to the extent that they were scared and actually asked him to stop after he gave the covenant, and asked Moses to go up there and speak to him and have Moses bring back what he said, because they were scared, but they heard his word. You guys hearing that? They heard his word. So when Messiah is called the Word made flesh, he is the covenant of Yah, the spoken covenant in flesh. If the covenant was to be lived out in human flesh, it would look like Messiah. You following what I'm saying? If the covenant were to be lived out in flesh, it would look like Messiah. Okay? And that's why he is the representation of the word of Yah. All right? And so when the Bible says Christ is the end of the law for righteousness, what it's saying to us is he is the representation. He is the goal of what we want to be like. He is the goal. He is what we are shooting for as far as what we want to be like once we are fully developed in the spirit of the Father. Okay, everybody, so far so good. When we're going to be sealed, we want to be sealed in a character that replicates or duplicates Messiah. Okay, he is the goal, or the telos, which is the goal, the point. He's the point of it, the point of the law. Okay, it's like saying you want to follow Messiah to this end or to this goal. What goal is that? What end is that? That you might give glory to the Father by perfect replication of his Son in character. All right. And last night, couple things. One thing I was searching for, and it was right in front of me the whole time. I couldn't see it because I saw it afterward. Me and Isha was talking, and Frankie was talking after the study, and I found it. And I want to just share this with y'all because I was talking about last night. The Father was inspiring me to talk about why he didn't show himself to the people. Y'all remember I asked you that question? Why didn't he show himself to the people? Why didn't he show himself to the people? And all y'all correctly said, because the people would die, because sin is abhorrent to the Father, and his spirit of righteousness immediately destroys sin. And that is absolutely true. But there's another reason, and I wanted to bring this up and bring this out as we begin today's study, Deuteronomy chapter 4. And we're gonna read in Deuteronomy a little bit this morning as part of this study. And again, I want to bring out this point that the apostle Shaul or Paul quoted much from the Old Testament. And as we're going to read today, you're going to see quotations from the book of Deuteronomy. Okay. And before we do that, I want to just read those quotations in their context so that we can understand what Shaul was actually saying versus what Christianity has taught about it. Y'all got me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4. I'm going to begin at verse 9. And I'm going to read down a few verses, but let's first read verse 9, 10, and 11. Okay? Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 9, 10, and 11. Notice what it says. Only take heed to thyself and keep thy soul diligently, lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen, unless they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. But teach them thy sons and thy sons' sons, especially, notice, the day that thou stoodest before Yahweh, thy Most High, in Horeb. When Yahweh said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children. And ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. Now, again, remember we just said, Messiah is the word made flesh. This word is the word that Father was speaking to, and I want y'all to understand. Let me just ask y'all some questions. Isha, you were just telling Frank about this last night. I'm getting ready to ask some questions. I want some answers from you guys, the audience. Okay. Who was the Father speaking this word to at Horeb? When he spoke, we just read, he said the admonition here, take heed, keep your soul diligently. Don't forget the things which your eyes have seen, depart not, lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. Teach them thy sons and thy sons' sons, especially the day when thou stoodest before Yahweh, thy Most High, in Horeb. And Horeb is Mount Sinai. And he's saying, and just in case y'all didn't know, Horeb is Mount Sinai. So he's saying, when Yahweh said, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words. Now, who is he speaking to when he said that? Moses is now talking to the children of Israel. Who is the Most High telling Moses to do this for? The word was being spoken to the Israelite nation. Testing 1, 2, 3. That's right. It was the Israelite nation he was about to speak these words to. Now, that's very deep. Why do I say that? That's very deep. Because we just said Messiah is the word that was spoken to the Israelites made flesh. You follow me so far? Messiah is the word that was spoken to the Israelites made flesh. Messiah is an Israelite. Messiah is an Israelite, right? He wasn't born an Egyptian. He wasn't born a Babylonian. He was born an Israelite by blood of the tribe of Judah, right? And he is the word, that is this word that was spoken to the Israelite nation made flesh. The implication, of course, being he came to be the word to the Israelite nation, right? So that the Israelite nation can turn around and show that word to the Gentiles. Everybody got me so far? All right. All right, good. Okay. So now the first 3 verses, I want to go over this very carefully so that y'all understand before we go into Romans. Take heed to thyself, Moses told the children of Israel. Keep your soul diligently, lest you forget what your eyes have seen, lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. But teach them thy sons and thy sons' sons. In other words, he intended for this word, this experience of the nation to go to the sons and daughters of the nation and to keep going down the line. He intended that to be the case. Okay. Then he said, especially, in other words, this whole book of Deuteronomy, the book of the law, is a book of instructions, right, for the nation. But he said, especially when you stood before Mount Horeb to hear the words directly from the Father, especially that day. Don't forget that. Right. And as he's saying, don't forget it to Moses, for Moses as the intercessor to say that to the nation. So we are now awakening to the point that we are not to forget that covenant that was spoken to our fathers. Testing 1, 2, 3. Are you following? We are not to forget that covenant that was spoken to our fathers. Now, some people wear fringes, blue ribbons on the edge of their garment. They call them zeets on the edge of their garment so they don't forget. Okay, fine. But the real problem is not the zeets, brothers and sisters. It's the Father's Spirit that needs to be in our hearts. Remember what Moses told Joshua or Yahushua, would Yah, that all his people were prophets and that his Spirit was in them. See, if the Father's Spirit is in you, you don't need zeets to remind you to keep it. Huh? Talking to me? You hear what I'm saying? If the Father's Spirit is in you, you don't need to wear fringes for you to remember his covenant. All right? So, but really, I think the brothers that wear the zeets, honestly, I don't think they're wearing it so that they remember the covenant. I think they're wearing it to let everybody else know they're not forgetting the covenant. I think that's really what it is. Brothers on YouTube or whatever that hear this, they can let me know if that's the truth. But I think that's why brothers are really wearing the tzitzits. I don't think they're wearing it simply because Yah told Moses to tell the children of Israel to wear them so that they don't forget the covenant. They're really wearing it to let everybody that sees them know they remember the covenant. And that's all good. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be in a position of criticizing the brethren for doing that. But, okay. So now he's telling them, especially in that day, that they heard the covenant. Don't forget that, right? And so don't forget that. And that's our awakening right now. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, the words you are saying to you and to anybody that hears my voice, as the true nation this was first spoken to, we are now awakening to remember that this was first spoken to us. And that this was spoken to us not by any prophet. It was spoken to us by the creator of heaven and earth. You hearing me? This is a deep and powerful thing. This is spoken to us by the creator of heaven and earth, the one that made the sky, the trees, the fountains of waters, the ocean, us. He spoke this to us, to our fathers. We're awakening to this. That tells us who we really are, right? That tells us who we really are and our place in this earth. It really does. Praise the Most High Yah. Okay, so now let's continue. Deuteronomy chapter 4. Again, this is all tied to Romans. Now watch this. Deuteronomy chapter 4 from verse 12 now. In fact, let me just read verse 12 by itself for a second, okay? Watch what this says. Watch this now. Deuteronomy 4:12. Watch what it says. And Yahweh spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. Ye heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only ye heard a voice. Now that's important, right? This is the point of this section that we're reading. He emphasized a couple of things. First, that they shouldn't forget what they've seen, what they've been taught, that they should pass that along to their children first. Second, they should especially remember the day that they received the covenant from the Creator himself. They should remember that, okay? And now he's saying, he wants to emphasize they did not see the Father. So somebody might say, if they didn't see no Father, if they didn't see, how do they know he exists? There's some fools out there that'll ask that question. So I'm going to answer the question before they even ask it. Somebody might say, well, they didn't see anything. How do they know he exists? How do they know it wasn't a trick? Think of this now. Think of a mountain. It don't have to be a Mount Everest. It could be a mountain. Like a mountain is a mountain, right? Let's say a typical mountain's 1,000 feet in elevation. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Let's say it's 1,500 feet in elevation. You can call that a mountain, right? If it's 1,500 feet in elevation, it's a mountain. So that's a pretty big object, right? A mountain is a pretty big object. So now you're staring at this mountain and you see clouds, dark, thick clouds on the mountain, lightning, and you're hearing a trumpet voice, and it's very loud, so that well over 1 million people ears are hurting. Great. You hear what I just said? No pun intended, but you hear what I just said. So well over 1 million people, their ears are hurting. And because they're hearing this trumpet, it's coming out of the thick cloud. Then all of a sudden now it stops. And you start to hear a voice that reverberates so powerfully, so clearly that over 1 million people, not only 1 million people at once hear it, it scares them. Even the Bible says in Hebrews, Moses said, I exceedingly fear and quake at what was being done right there. Okay, so that's how they know this wasn't no trick. All right. This was the Creator speaking to them. All right. So they didn't see anything. They didn't see a body. They didn't see any form of him, but they heard him for sure. And again, this is more deeper. I'm going to give you another depth to this right now. I'm going to get ready to share with you another depth to this. Why was that important aside from what we get ready to read here? Because hearing the word and performing the word is more important than seeing the Father. He considers that of more importance than anything else. Hearing the word and receiving the word and being obedient to the word is more important. Remember what Messiah told in the parable of Abraham, with Abraham, Lazarus, and the rich man? He said, the rich man in the torments of hell, he said, please send Lazarus to my brothers and let him warn them. And then Abraham said, well, they got Moses and the prophets. They can listen to them. He said, no, Father Abraham, if you send a man from the dead, they'll believe him because he's coming from the dead. He said, nah, He said, if they don't hear Moses and the prophets, they won't even hear it though one rose from the dead. And that's a powerful thing because Messiah obviously rose from the dead. And a lot of people still not only pervert his words, they pervert who he is. They make a different religion out of it, right? He rose from the dead. Okay. So the thing is, the Father is illustrating here that he wants us to hear his word. To obey his word is the highest level a human being can attain to. That's the highest level you and I can attain to. Fear Yah and keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. And what does Yahweh require of thee? But to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your Most High. See, brothers and sisters, he's not asking you to climb skyscrapers or to be a big charismatic speaker or to, have a million. He's not asking you to do all that. What are he asking you to do? Be obedient to his word. How can you be obedient to his word? By the power of his spirit that he wants to put on us to be obedient to his word. Okay? By the power of his spirit. Praise the Most High Yahweh. So he wanted to emphasize there in verse 13, listen, you did not, verse 12, you did not see anything. You saw a thick cloud, but you did not see a similitude of the Most High. You didn't see a shape of his body. You didn't see his face. What you did is you heard his word. And that's, again, let me bring this down deeper. Yahweh is the word. Yahweh Shai, the Son, is the word made flesh. And what did the Father say? This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. Isn't that what he said? This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. He bore witness himself to the people that saw the baptism. He bore witness. The Father bore witness. And he said, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. He told the Israelite people, there were no Gentiles out there that day. He said, he's telling the Israelite, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. That's right. Hear the living word. That's Messiah. That's right. Praise the Most High. So let's continue now. Let's read verse 12 again, only this time, let's go down to verse 16. Okay, actually, let's go from verse 12 to verse 15, Isha, to verse 15. We're going to leave 16 for a second. Let's go down from verse 12 to verse 15. And Yahweh spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. Ye heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only ye heard a voice. And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments, just in case you didn't know what the covenant was. And he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. That's forever right there. And Yahweh commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that ye might do them in the land whither ye go over to possess it. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves. For, and he emphasizes again, ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that Yahweh spake unto you in Oreb out of the midst of the fire. He emphasized this twice. You didn't see any person. What you do? You heard a voice. And he spoke what? The covenant, which is what? The 10 commandments. 10 commandments is the covenant. Okay, most Gentiles don't know this. They don't understand because they're so busy trying to do away with Father's law. And even Israelites that should know better, caught up in Christianity, don't realize. You hear people say, well, what covenant are you talking about? Are you talking about the Noahic covenant? Are you talking about the Abrahamic covenant? Are you talking about the Mosaic covenant? Look, man, ain't but one covenant. He spoke it to these men. You hear what I'm saying? Don't get it twisted. Ain't but one covenant. Okay. Now, within that, based on that, there's other covenants, like, for example, the covenant to bring them into the land. Or the covenant of circumcision. That's all based on this, the obedience to the Most High's law, the obedience to this, 10 commandments. This is the covenant. Okay. Just like there were many prophets. Many received Mashach, the anointing, but there's only one that is the anointed. That is Messiah. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hear what I'm saying? Okay, there's only one that is this is the covenant, which is commonly referred to as the 10 commandments. This is the covenant. So whenever he says to a person, whether it be Noah or Abraham or Moses or the children of Israel, whenever he says this phrase, which you have read, I'm going to establish my covenant with you. He told that to Noah. He told that Abraham. He told it Isaac, he told it now. Moses, he told to the whole nation, I'm going to establish my covenant with you. What he's saying is, I'm going to make you to be one with my words, or with my law, with my 10 commandments. I'm going to make you be one with this. Okay. And that's why Messiah said, he prayed in John 17, Father, that they may be one as I am one with you, that they may be one with us. That is one in this covenant. See, Asatan is separate from the covenant. Asatan is separate. Asatan is 180 degrees opposed to the covenant. He's opposed to the covenant. Okay? That's why he's continually trying to induce people to ignore it, to do away with it, to change it, to try to somehow alter it in any way that he can. They even got these heathen talking about putting the 10 commandments in school, and you and I both know it's not the same covenant that we're talking about. They keeping Sunday. That's not even the same God, brothers and sisters. I'm trying to be honest with you. That's not even the same God. Okay? Because there's only one God. That's Yah. That's his name. Yah. You only have to speak Hebrew to know that. That's his name. Yah. Okay? That's his name. There's only one God. And he only has one son. One. Now listen, he got many prophets. He got many prophets now. And his prophets have one thing in common. They're all Hebrews. No, let me break this down further. They're all Hebrew Israelites. All his prophets, and I'm sorry to disappoint you Arabs. I'm sorry to disappoint you Caucasian people. None of y'all prophets. The prophets he shows in this word are all Hebrew Israelite prophets, whether they be male or female. Okay? Hebrew Israelite prophets. I'm just trying to tell you what it is, man. I'm not, listen here. I'm not trying to run no popularity contest. I'm honest with you. I'm not trying to run no popularity contest. I got to answer to the creator. I got to answer to him. It ain't about no money. It's not about followers. I got to answer to the creator. You know, I'm closer to the grave than I am from birth. I can't play around. I got no time for that. So I'm trying to be honest with you. But one God, he got but one covenant, one capital C covenant, one son, one anointed one above all, Messiah, who is his representation in flesh. And because he is that representation of perfect righteousness, we have a high priest that we can call on the Father through his name. We can call on the Father because of that perfect representation of righteousness that is Messiah. So he said, look, I want you to remember now, you didn't see nothing. You heard the word. You heard the word. Okay. Why? Let's continue now. Now let's start at verse 15 and go down to verse 19. Okay. That's how we're going to finish this particular section of Deuteronomy. From verse 15 to verse 19. Watch this. Thank you, Isha. Notice what it said. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves. For ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that Yahweh spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. Why? Lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, or the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. Lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, and shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which Yahweh thy Most High hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. See, notice he didn't leave nothing out. That's why, we don't need no pictures of a white Jesus on a wooden cross. We don't need no pictures of a black Jesus on a wooden cross. Testing 1, 2, 3. Because if he wanted you to see that, he would have let you see that. But no. And he didn't give you definitely no image of himself. Now he describes himself. He definitely does. He describes himself as woolly hair. Woolly hair, ancient of days with woolly hair. And he said Messiah said he is the express image of his father's person. And Messiah is described as having skin burned like burned brass in a furnace and having woolly hair. So Father tells us that Messiah looks like him in glory. But we still not to make no image of that. Okay? We not to make no image of it. Testing 1, 2, 3. No. That's why we know everybody that has some sort of image, whether it be a wooden cross or whether it be a stone in the middle of Saudi Arabia somewhere, that's idolatry. That's plain and simple. That's idolatry, brothers and sisters. As a matter of fact, you remember when they made the temple, Solomon's temple, right? And the prayer was, whenever we mess up, Father, and we pray toward this temple, because this is where you have placed your name, you will hear us in heaven. And it wasn't for them to worship the temple. No, brothers and sisters, it was because the glory of the Father was in that temple. In fact, remember what the Bible said? The glory was so thick in that temple that the priest couldn't even enter it because of the smoke that came up when they worshiped. Remember that? So it wasn't the stone that made it special. It was because the Father's Spirit was in there. His presence is what made it special. And that's why he said later, when he told the prophet, he said, Haggai, he said, the last temple, he said, y'all think this temple is nothing, this second one compared to the first one? Because the second one didn't look like nothing compared to the first one. The first one was made almost of pure gold, brothers and sisters. It was powerful, right? But some people say this was the most beautiful building ever built on the earth. But you say this, you think this second one is not going to be greater than the first? He said the second one's going to be greater. You know why the second one was greater? Because the representation of the Father walked in me. That's why it was greater. Because the Word made flesh walked in it. Simply because he walked in there, that was greater. Huh? You hear what I'm saying? It wasn't the marble, it wasn't the wood, it wasn't the stone. It's because Messiah walked in there. When his feet sitting there, that made that temple greater. Okay? But what happened? Our fathers worshiped Solomon's temple. They started worshiping the temple. They started worshiping the temple. How you know? How I know? Because they start putting pictures of other gods in the temple. Look at Ezekiel 8 and you'll see what I'm saying. I'm not going to go through it now, but look at Ezekiel 8 and you know what I'm saying. They started putting images of other things, of all these things he talked not to put in, they put them in there. And they started worshiping the temple itself and worshiping the sun, just everything he told them not to do. And what did he do? Notice what he did. He destroyed that beautiful building. He leveled it. He had the Babylonians come and level it. So then they rebuilt it. And they started adding man-made rules to his law. And they started having a combination of Edomites and Israelites come together and create this new religion that later became Judaism. Ain't no Judaism in the Torah. Ain't no Judaism in there. You don't hear nobody talking about no Judaism. That's a man-made religion. Okay? Father never gave no name to what he told the people to do. Did you notice that? He never said, call it this. He never said that. Ever. And if he ain't name it, why are we trying to name it? Let Gentiles name their religion. That's their business. Okay? We name our God. Our God is Yah, and we're followers of him. Now, we don't need to name our religion. And when we say Hebrew Israelite, that's who we are. That's not the name of our religion. That's who we are. Okay? That's who we be. You understand? It's not the name of no religion. That's man. Whenever you see man put a name on something, it's already messed up. They're going to put their tool upon it. It's already messed up. Okay? But they're going to put their tool upon it. Already done. Exactly. It's not a religion. We don't follow no religion. This is who we are. And our God has a name. His name is Yah. There ain't no other. Okay? Ain't no other. So they worship. They started doing this, and what did he do with the second temple? He had the Romans, he had the Gentiles come, destroy it. He had the Gentiles come and destroy it. Because we're not supposed, and after that, what did he tell us in Acts? What did he say through his apostles, his sent ones? What did he say? I do not dwell in temples made with hands. Isn't that what he said? I do not dwell in temples made with hands. Am I making that up, or is that the truth? He said, I do not dwell in temples made with hands. Now, why is that important? Well, look, I can tell you, you can know right now. Anytime these people out here making buildings, and I'm listening now. There's even Israelites that's focus on creating buildings. All right, that's their business. But you start focusing on creating these buildings, man. And I'm trying to tell you, you headed toward idolatry. They had synagogues, but you never seen the name of a synagogue. Like they didn't call it First Baptist Synagogue, right? They didn't call it Synagogue number 4, right? I mean, it was just a synagogue. And why was that? That was a place for the men, mostly women too, but mostly the men to gather and go into the word. And they didn't have no seats in there. There were no pews in there for people to get comfortable and sit up in there. They stood up. And the person in the front, the priest or the people that was leading out in the synagogue in the study of the word, they stood in the front with the word. It was very crude. It wasn't no big building. In fact, it was a nondescript building. They did that on purpose. It wasn't supposed to draw attention to itself. Not these like $1 million structures that people be trying. And it's better to have a storefront. If you know what I'm saying? You better to get a storefront or be in somebody's house or something like that. Even be outside. I mean, don't be putting together no building for to buy no big fancy place, man. That's what I'm trying to say to y'all. That's idolatry. That's idolatry. And the Most High, if you really one of his chosen people and he loves you, what he's going to do is destroy your little building because you're trying to put all the kind of these dead. Look, man, if it costs you $1 million for a piece of property to buy a building for people to just get together in a synagogue, right? If it costs you $1 million, what if you did a double wide trailer for $25,000, $50,000, and the rest of that $950,000 you help the brethren all over the earth that's starving, that's suffering, that's in jail, that's sitting in jail because they don't have money for a bail? What if some mommy is crying because her son is in jail and she ain't had no daddy and she could use some money to help him get out? What something like that? You understand what I'm saying? Instead of putting together some building for $1 million. That's idolatry, man. You hear what I'm saying? Y'all get the point. But everything he said here, the astrology, you a Scorpio, you a Capricorn, you a whatever. This is what he's trying to avoid right here. That's what he's trying to avoid. Now, we're not saying the stars don't mean anything. For centuries, men have looked at the stars for direction in terms of going in a certain direction, in terms of measuring the seasons with the moon and the stars. No problem. But don't start acting like because you were born under a certain star, you're going to be a certain way. That now you adding to what the Most High didn't give you. He didn't do that for you. That's not you. You understand? That's for the pagans. That's Gentiles. Let them do that. That's not you. Is it skipping? I don't know. Is it skipping in Periscope? I don't know. Is it? I don't know. Is it skipping? Okay. By the way, Isha, I sent you an invite in Hangouts before I came into the room. Did you happen to see the invite? I don't know if I was testing it. I sent you an invite in Hangouts just to see if you would receive the invite before I even came in the room. Did you see? You did? Okay. All right. All right. Praise the Most High. All right. Oh, you just saw the link? Okay. I sent you an invite as well. I sent you an invite. I just wanted to see if you received that. Okay. Maybe if it's in your email and you didn't see it because you didn't look at the email because, I know you don't normally look at it. Maybe that's what it is. But anyway, I was just testing. Okay. So now y'all know why. Now you'll know why he didn't want them to see him. Okay, because he wanted the word to go forth. Now, while we're in Deuteronomy, let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 32. Because somebody might rightly ask the question, did the Most High at all mention Gentiles? I mean, did he ever talk about anything about the Gentiles? Yes, he did. We read some of it in Isaiah. We're going to read some more in Isaiah. But he also mentioned it in Deuteronomy, believe it or not. Now, I just want to make sure y'all understand the main focus, obviously, is the nation of Israel. Okay? But he didn't do away with the Gentiles. Obviously, as we have been saying, I think very strongly, and I think y'all have caught this, The object of the nation of Israel's development is for them to go ahead and teach the Gentiles. Now, as we also know, not all the Gentiles or even the majority of the Gentiles are going to want to know this truth. But those Gentiles that want to cling to the nation of Israel are going to be blessed. They're going to be blessed because they're clinging to the nation of the true Hebrew people. And through that people, they're going to hear the truth of the Most High, the truth of his covenant, of his spirit of perfect righteousness. They're going to get all that. So I want to show you something. Moses wrote a song. And generally speaking, the song, brothers and sisters, that are written by prophets have prophecy within them. Okay, I want to say that again. When songs are written by prophets, there's prophecy within them. So it's not just a song to make somebody dance and sing, which is fine, but it's a song to inspire the brethren, because that's what even y'all, everybody understand. Like, if a song touches your heart and you remember it, no matter what song it is, it's a song that inspires you in some way. Is that, you see what I'm saying? So any song that inspires you is a song you're gonna remember. So a prophet, by definition, if you look up the word prophet in the Hebrew, by definition, it says an inspired person. That's what a prophet is, an inspired person. Inspired by what? Obviously, if it's a prophet of Yah, he is inspired or she is inspired by the righteous spirit of Yah. And will be made manifest in their inspiration, in their encouragement of the people to keep covenant with Yah, okay? So we're going to look at Deuteronomy 32. I'm not going to look at the whole thing for the sake of time. I'm not going to look at the whole thing because obviously we got other things to study. Today is Romans chapter 10. But in regard to that, let's see, where am I going to stop? Okay, I'm going to start at verse 7. And we're eventually going to go all the way down to verse 21, Isha, but we're going to do it in sections. So let's start from verse 7 and go down to verse 15 to start off with. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 32 from verse 7 to verse 15. We will eventually go down to verse 21, but let's stop right here for now, okay? This is Moses talking to the nation of the Israelite people, the Hebrew Israelite people. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, he separated the sons of Adam. He set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land and in a waste-howling wilderness. He led him about. He instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings, so Yahweh alone did lead him. There was no strange God with him. He made him to ride upon the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the fields. And he made him to suck honey out of the rock, and oil out of the flinty rock, butter of kine and milk of sheep, with fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats with the fat of kidneys of wheat. Thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. But Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook the Most High which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. I want you to understand the import of what we just read. Okay, brothers and sisters, I want you to, first of all, Moses is given this whole book of Deuteronomy in one day. He's repeating, not only is he repeating history to the children of Israel of what their fathers have went through, not only is he giving them statutes and judgments, of course, not only did he also repeat the covenant with them, he's also prophesying. This is right before they get into the land. This is right before Joshua leads them into the land. Moses is about to be put down. He's about to be put to sleep. So right before that, Moses is giving him this word. And notice what he said, Jeshurun. Jeshurun represents the Israelite nation. Okay, it's not Jerusalem because they didn't even have Jerusalem yet. All right, testing 1, 2, 3. Jeshurun represents the Israelite nation. So he said, Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxing fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook the Most High, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. So he's telling a future prophecy. He's saying you're going to wax fat. He said, as I blessed your father, Jacob, with oil, with wine, with butter, as I blessed him with milk of sheep and lambs and blessed him with goats and wheat, as I blessed him with grapes, wine, his children are going to wax fat and they're going to forget me. They're going to lightly esteem me, though I am their salvation. Isn't that powerful? This is what Moses is telling the nation. You're going to forsake him. And when you're forsake him, this is how it's going to happen for you. Okay, so this is powerful because, again, this is right. Imagine this. You're the children of Israel. This is right. You've been 40 years. Your fathers died in the wilderness and you're about to cross over. And everybody knows now Moses is not going in. He's going to die before he goes in. And he has anointed Joshua to lead the people into the land. And you are excited. You know, this is your time. This is what you've been waiting for. And right before that, he tells you, your children are going to forsake me. See? Your children are going to forsake me. You're going to live fat. I'm going to give you in this land. I'm going to bless you. You're going to live fat, but you're going to end up forsaking me. Now, that kind of sobering, isn't it? That kind of sobering. You're about to enter into the promised land that you've been dealing with. Your father's been telling you about for centuries. And this last 40-year period was testing, and you're about to go in, and the prophet is telling you, you're going to forsake Allah. I mean, I say Allah because Allah is God. That's the general name for God. I said that I do use that term, but I don't use it publicly often because people think it's Muslim. It's not Muslim. Allah means, it's just a simple title for the word God. But you're going to forsake the Most High. You're going to forsake Yahweh. Okay. This is Deuteronomy chapter 32. Let's read from verse 15 again down to verse 21. Deuteronomy 32 from verse 15 to verse 20. Watch what he says here. Talking about Gentiles. But Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxing fat. Thou art grown thick. Thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook the Most High which made him, and lightly esteemed the God of his salvation. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils, not to the Most High. To Elohim, this is plural for Allah, Elohim, gods, this to Elohim, whom they knew not. To new Elohim, that newly came up, whom your fathers feared not. Of the rock that begot thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten the Most High that formed thee. Then Yahweh saw it. He abhorred them because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. Listen now. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very froward generation, children in whom there is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not Most High. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. You want to know where the Gentiles are? There they are right there. That's them. The ones that are not a people. The ones that are a foolish nation. That's what he considers the Gentile. Okay? That's what he considers the Gentile. You're not a people. You may have nations, you may have groups, and Most High divided you your inheritance, as he said. He divided you your inheritance. But he said, I'm going to provoke my people to jealousy by a foolish nation. I'm going to provoke them to jealousy by a people that's not a people. They're not even a people. I'm going to use these to provoke y'all to jealousy because you what? Because you sacrificed to devils. You worshiped other Elohim. You forgot me and I brought you into the land. I blessed you like I blessed your father and you going to forget me? Okay, I'm going to raise up the lowest of the low and I'm going to raise them up over you. I'm going to provoke you to jealousy. There's your Gentiles right there. There they are. You think I'm lying? Watch. When we get ready to read Romans 10, you're going to see this. He's going to quote this verse. He's going to quote this verse. Okay. Wait. One more verse in this chapter for we could watch this now. Verse 26. Verse 26 of the same, Deuteronomy 32. Verse 26. Watch this. Verse 26. Notice what it says. Watch carefully. I said, talking about the Israelites, I said, I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. Brothers and sisters, has this happened? Has it happened? Yes. Yes. This prophecy before even they entered the land. Okay. And as we also know now, Deuteronomy 30 is the prophecy of our awakening. Okay. Deuteronomy 30 is the prophecy of our awakening. So here he's prophesying what we're going to be provoked to jealousy by a nation that's not even a people, by a foolish nation. It's people that don't even know the Most High. People that worship idols, I'm going to provoke you to jealousy by them. I'm going to make the remembrance of you to cease so that they think that they are you. So that Japhet going to try to dwell in the tents of Shem. Isn't that what they did? Japhet going to dwell in the tents of Shem. Isn't that Noah's prophecy? Japhet going to dwell in the tents of Shem. That's what he said. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. But let's not forget now, I want to bring to remembrance. Let's just can't let y'all think that that's the end of the story. Deuteronomy chapter 30. Deuteronomy chapter 30 from verse 1 to 7. Actually 1 to 8. Deuteronomy 30, 1 to 8. Deuteronomy 30, 1 to 8. Notice what it says. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, that is, you Israelites, you bloodline, you children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it shall come to pass when all these things shall come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. Notice it was the blessing first, then the curse, which I, that is the Most High, have set before thee, as Moses repeated. Thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, that is the ones that are provoking you to jealousy, among all the nations whither Yahweh thy Most High have driven thee, and shalt return unto Yahweh thy Most High. And that's the awakening right there. And shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thy heart and with all thy soul. See, as you start to remember who you are, it shall come to pass after the blessing and the curse. It's going to come to your mind. All the nations where you've been scattered and enslaved and oppressed, it's going to come to your mind. Who are you? You notice on planet Earth, there's only one group of people that don't have no history in terms of an official history of who they are and where they come from. There's only one people on the earth like that. Did you notice that? The Chinese people know where they come from. Japanese people know where they come from. Huh? Germans know where they come from. Irish know where they come from. Huh? They all know where they come from. There's only one group of people that know where they come from. And we're continually searching. We're doing DNA tests. We're trying to wear clothes from West Africa. We're continually reaching. Where are we from? Who are we? And all our oppressors tell us that y'all were slaves. Y'all came over here on slave ships. Y'all were slaves. But we don't know who we are. As Malcolm X said, you don't know what tongue you spoke. You don't know what your culture was. That's why we desperate. We desperate for anybody's culture but ours. I'm telling the truth. Y'all hear me? You're desperate for anybody's culture. If somebody invites you to look up Buddha and you talking to Thai people and the Thai people are friendly to you, you'll embrace their culture because you don't know yours. If some Irish person invites you to their house and you party with the Irish and they have a good time and they wearing green, you'll wear green. Why? Because you don't have your culture, so you'll take theirs. There's only one group of people on the earth that describe that this is described. Even the Indian people from East India, they come over to the United States. I noticed they can be here 3-4 generations. They still wear their same clothes in their country. They still have the same traditions. They don't forget who they are because they know who they are. You understand? Only one group of people don't know who we are. And why? It's because of what we're reading right here. Because we've been scattered. I'm going to make the remembrance of them to cease. But it shall come to pass when all these things that come upon thee. See, we got a culture. We know now who we are. We are awakening. We are Israelite, Hebrew Israelites. Hebrew Israelites. That's who we are. We come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, brothers and sisters. That's who we are. That's our culture. That's our culture. And that's why all these other cultures, all fine and dandy. But that ain't your culture. Okay? That ain't you. You might be reaching for it because you don't know who your culture is. It's like a person don't know who their daddy is and reaching for anybody that might want to be their daddy. You going to be my daddy, or somebody don't know who their mommy is and reaching for any woman that might be willing to take that role because they don't know who their mommy is. Well, brothers and sisters, until now, we didn't know who our mommy and daddy was. But now we know. Now we know. And that's the awakening. That's how we are being awakened. Now we know who we are. Now we know where we come from. Now we know why it all happened to us like that. And yet, I think anybody that's being honest will look at the Negro and understand that there's something different about him. And it's not just that he has a rhythm either, though he does have a rhythm that most other people cannot duplicate. I think I know y'all know I'm telling the truth. There's a rhythm about the Hebrew people that are called Negroes that people just can't duplicate. There's a spirit about them that people just can't understand. Why is it y'all different? Is it because of slavery? Why is it? You ready for this? I want to make sure I got to hesitate before I let this one loose that the Father gave me. You ready? We were vessels that were once occupied by the Father. And even though he left us, the remnants of what was there still remain. You hear me? Y'all hear me? We were a nation of people that were once occupied by the Creator. We were a nation of people that were the only people on earth that as a nation he chose. And even though we left him and he left us for a time to punish us, the remnants of who was with us are still evident on us. It's like a person that was raised in royalty. And you took that royalty, you took the title from them. You took the money and power and servants and castles from them, and you put them among common people. And yet they were raised as royalty. They eat a certain way. They sit down a certain way. They walk a certain way. You understand? And there's something about that person that even though they're not sitting on a throne anymore, you can still see that they used to be royalty. That's us. That's us. That's what's different. We used to be royalty, and we lost it. But the awakening is to humble us so that we now are coming back to our rightful place. The place that, not that we chose for ourselves, but that the Creator, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob chose for us. Our rightful place. We're now awakening to who we are supposed to be. We're awakening. It's the royal house of Judah. Out of Judah came the royalty, brothers and sisters. It's the royal house of Judah. Before there even was any king in any nation, above all, there's a royal house of Judah. And Judah, let me just tell you, just give you a little breakdown. The Israelite nation is so blessed and royal, right? That even somebody related to him is blessed and royal, like Yishmael, because of his bloodline relation. Now, he's not a Hebrew Israelite, but he is the seed of Abraham. He was royalty. Because even Esau, who hated his brother. And the most I said, Esau I have hated, even him. He had a kingdom and he had royalty. Not because it's because of his connection with the true royalty. Now, he provoked us to jealousy, and he made us go low, very low, lower than any people in history. Why? Because as we're reading, I'm not finished Deuteronomy 30. As we read this here, this awakening is on underway. The awakening is underway. He get ready to bring us back to royalty, but you got to be spiritually prepared. You cannot be puffed up like our fathers was. You understand? Our fathers got puffed up, and that puff upness, that conceit led them to worship other gods. That's where that leads, and we are learning from that. We are royalty. We are the regal house of Israel. Praise the Most High Yah. That's who we are. That's our culture. That's how we come from. We're just not from anything. And let me tell you this. Federal Reserve notes and dollar bills don't make or break that. It has nothing to do with that. We're not royalty because of lack of or increase of dollar bills with dead Caucasian presidents on them. Even if they were to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, which they ain't doing. But even if they were to do that, that ain't what makes us royalty. Harriet Tubman was royalty. You understand? She was a princess. I don't even want to say a black princess. That would be diminishing it. Nothing wrong with being black. Obviously, we black, but it was just because she is a true princess. Now, you can say Caucasian princesses because they ain't the real princesses. Notice what he said. These are foolish nation. These people are not even a people to him. When you read the Apocrypha, oh, by the way, I just don't want to get too far to the point, but I've been studying, I have read through the Bible. I stopped counting after 15 or 16 times. I mean, cover to cover. This particular year, I'm actually been thwarted in my reading of it. Why? Because the Father has me reading Apocrypha. Because, brother brought this to my attention years ago, and I got to give it a go. I got to read it, right? In order to give a good critique to understand if it's true or not, I got to read it. And I got to tell you, man, I've been reading 1st and 2nd, where the Bible, the Apocrypha calls it Esdras. And it's supposed to be Ezra. And in Hebrew, it's Yitzhara. And hey, man, I'm not gonna front. The first Esdras or the first Yitzhara is basically a repeat of Ezra and Nehemiah in some sort of combination. But the second one, it's giving me pause to think. I'm like, whoa, man. I was like, yo. So I'm not going to say more about it, but I'm trying to tell you it's on point so far. I'm not going to front. It's on point so far. It really is the second one, man. Woo, man. And I'm looking forward to reading Wisdom of Solomon after this, after I read that. Because, whoa, man. Anyway, so all of it is part of the awakening. All of it is part of the awakening. We are now awakening as to who we are, how we got here. All this is extremely important. What our culture is, what our true culture is, right? And how we're going to get out of this mess. And how we're going to help the world get out of this mess that the world is in. Okay? You believe it or not, it's waiting on our awakening. The world don't even realize this. Creation knows it, but the world is awaiting our awakening. That's really what's going on, because once we are awakened, the earth is going to be redeemed. Sin and sinners will be rooted out of the earth. And this earth is going to be nothing but pure joy, righteousness, truth, and light forever. And as Daniel says, even forever and ever. And it starts with the awakening. And that awakening begins with the 144,000. That's where we're at right now. And we are excited because we know, we got some very hard times. Some of us are not going to make it. I'm just being honest. They're going to be bloodshed. Some of us going to die. If I die, you die. Okay, whatever. We don't mind that. Why we don't mind that? Because it's for the Father's glory. And at the end of the deal, he can raise us up from dust and raise us and put us on thrones. We know he could do that. And he will do that for a lot of our brothers. Harriet Tubman, I just mentioned her. She's resting in her grave. But that sister coming up. Right? And I know she coming up in that first resurrection. That's sister coming up. Sojourner Truth coming up. Malcolm X coming up. Okay, these brothers coming up. They're not staying there. They're not staying there. Sellouts. Sellouts gonna remain in their grave in this first resurrection, but not the righteous. They're coming up. So death cannot stop us. We understand that. So that being the case, we're not worried about that. All we concern ourselves with is one thing. Y'all know what I'm about to say. We only concern ourselves with one thing. What is that one thing we concern ourselves with? The glory and honor of the Father Yah. Nothing else matters. The glory and honor of Yah is all that matters. Really, that's the only thing that matters. And we praise him for that. It's very simple, isn't it? Deuteronomy chapter 30. Let me start at verse 1 again. I got thrown off. I threw myself off. Deuteronomy chapter 30 from verse 1 to 10. Ishad, if you don't mind, my dear, if you could please read Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 8. 1 through 8. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither Yahweh thy Most High have driven thee, and shalt return unto Yahweh thy Most High, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahweh thy Most High will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations with Yahweh thy Most High have scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out into the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahweh thy Most High gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yahweh thy Most High will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. And Yahweh thy Most High will circumcise thy heart and the heart of thy seed, to love Yahweh thy Most High with all thy heart, with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And Yahweh, thy Most High, will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of Yahweh and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day. That sums it up, doesn't it? That about sums it up. That about sums it up. So that's the end of the thing. That's the end of the thing right there. We're going to go back to keeping his commandments. Those that oppressed us are going to receive oppression. Those that profited on our backs, now we're going to profit on them. Those that hurt us, now they're going to get hurt. Whatever they have put on us is going to be returned double. The Bible says double unto them. Double. That's what's going to happen. Whoever hurt you is going to receive that hurt double. Because Father is not playing. When he says vengeance is mine, he's telling us, don't you worry about taking vengeance. Do I understand if you do? But don't take vengeance. Receive righteousness. Okay? Because Father getting ready to give double to your enemies. Praise the Most High Yah. I know people don't like to hear this, but this is the truth, man. Enemies going to receive double. That's the way it is, man. You can't give and not receive. You understand? Praise Yah. So now let's go to our subject for today. And as we now have a thorough background, believe me, second half today, we got something else to share, but by the grace of the Most High. But we stopped last night in verse 4, and let's start at verse 4. Notice Romans chapter 10. Let's start at verse 4, Isha. I'm going to read from verse 4 down to verse 10. Okay, for verse 4 to verse 10, watch what it says. For Messiah is the end of the law for righteousness to every one that believeth. For Moses describeth the righteousness which is of the law, that the man which doeth those things shall live by them. But the righteousness which is of faith speaketh on this wise. Say not in thy heart, who shall ascend into heaven? That is, to bring Messiah down from above. Or who shall descend into the deep? That is, to bring up Messiah again from the dead. But what saith it? The word that is nigh thee, even in thy, the word is nigh thee, even in thy heart, in thy mouth, and in thy heart. That is the word of faith which we preach. If thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Master Yahweh, and shalt believe in thy heart that Yahweh hath raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. And let me break this down. Glad we went into Deuteronomy. That very chapter that we just read. We didn't read this part of the chapter, but chapter 30 of Deuteronomy is what the apostle is quoting here. This is chapter 30 of Deuteronomy. It's past where we read, though. So if you read the rest of that chapter, like I think it's 14 verses long, it's not that long a chapter. But that chapter is what he's quoting here. He said, who shall go over the sea for us and bring the word to us that we may hear it and do it? Who shall bring the word down from us that we may hear it and do it? And Moses said, the word is very nigh thee, in thy mouth and thy heart, that thou mayest do it. He said, see, I have set before thee life and death, good and evil. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. And the apostle now, and this is why we're continually trying to teach this, Messiah came as a light from the Father to illuminate or to expound what the Father was trying to teach us back in the law and the prophets. And so what he's now doing here, he's saying, listen, the Israelites were just thinking in terms of the word that was written in stone without the Father's Spirit. But what we're telling you is the word of faith. Now, when he talks like that, he's talking about the Father's Spirit of righteousness, because it's called what? Justification by faith, or righteousness by faith. So he's trying to say to us, which he's trying to tell the brethren, the Israelites too, and the Gentile, the Israelites try to do this by creating their own religion. They failed. We're doing it through the faith in the righteousness of the Father that is given to us in his grace. And his grace is called Messiah. Testing 1, 2, 3. You follow me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Everybody got me so far? Testing 1, 2, 3. His grace, Messiah is his grace. Because through Messiah, we receive Father's Spirit to obey his commandments. Through Messiah, we receive the Father's Spirit to be a replication of the character of righteousness that is Messiah. Yes, that's what he's saying here. So all these Christianity, raise your hand if you believe in Jesus. Raise your hand and you can receive Christ. Receive Jesus as your Savior. Listen, man, that ain't it. That ain't it. You need to receive the Messiah in order to get the Father's righteousness. This is the key here. To get the Father's righteousness is to get a power through grace to be obedient to the Father. And we started off this thing by saying, how do you give honor and glory to the Father? Obey him. Obey his words. That's how you give him honor and glory. How does a sinner that's used to doing sin obey his words? By receiving his Spirit, by repenting of their sins and the sins of their father, saying, Father, I'm sorry, I have sinned just like my fathers have sinned against you. We have sinned against you. And Father, I am sorry. Please, in the name of the grace that's in Messiah, send me your Spirit. And that's what it takes. That is believing unto salvation and making confession. That is bearing witness. Bearing witness. Somebody might say, how do you prove God exists? Have you ever heard some of these pointy head fools say that? How do you prove that God exists? Listen, this is my proof. I bear witness his Spirit is in my heart. I bear witness to what he has done to my life. I bear witness. You see? See, for with the heart man believes unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. They overcame Satan by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, by bearing witness. Bearing witness to the Father's righteousness. For with the, what did he say? With the heart man believeth unto righteousness. That's the goal, brothers and sisters. Righteousness is the goal. Righteousness is the goal. Okay? Righteousness is the goal. Righteousness is the Father. Y'all following? Testing 1, 2, 3. Make sure y'all got me. Okay, everybody. Okay, praise the Most High Yah. So there again is a tremendous difference between the truth of this scripture and the Christian teaching of this scripture. It ain't about just raising your hand and saying, I received Jesus in my heart. No, especially white Jesus. That's not our God. We don't believe in white Jesus, the baby white one. No. We do believe in the Hebrew Messiah, whose father appeared to the Israelite nation, who spoke the covenant in words that was heard by our fathers alone, represented that covenant on 2 tables of testimony. Y'all can't hear me. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hang on. Let me try this here. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me in Power Talk? Testing 1, 2, 3. Do you got me in Power Talk yet? Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Okay, what I'm going to do in Power Talk, Isha, I'm going to go out the room and come back. You just let the people know that. I'm going to just step out the room and come back. I'm going to reset. Hold on. For all y'all listening on Periscope, I'm in Power Talk every Sabbath too. So the people in Power Talk are having trouble. Sometimes Power Talk technology is definitely not up to snuff. And sometimes because of that, it's, it's not exactly free. It's close to free. But because of that, sometimes we have issues with the technology. And what I'm saying is sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it just doesn't work. All right, let's see if it works now. So that the brethren that are in Power Talk have trouble hearing me sometimes. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Ah, very good. Praise the Most High Yah. Okay. So now Romans chapter 10. Let's continue. So from verse 10, we're gonna take a break after we get down to from verse 10 down to verse 13. Okay, from verse 10 to verse 13. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. For the scripture saith, whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. For there is no difference between the Hebrew Israelite and the Gentile, or the Jew, as it says here, and the Greek. For the same master is over all, is rich unto all that call upon him. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the master shall be saved. Now, again, let's make sure we're clear. We'll make sure we're clear on this. This word goes first to the Israelite people, and through the Israelite people, it goes to the Gentiles. Everybody understands that so far? Testing 1, 2, 3. Got me? It goes to, okay. Now, what word is this? It is the good news of the Father's righteousness being manifested through people by the Hebrew Messiah. Not white Jesus. Not white Jesus with Christian grace that causes you to put away the law of Yah. No, this is the Father Yah representing himself through his son Messiah so that his people can turn back to righteousness. And through that return, they can also inspire the Gentiles to know who the true God is, the only true God on planet Earth. The only one. Of the one chosen people that have been chosen above all people. And we have already went through some of the signs of the chosen people. The only people that don't know what their culture is are the chosen people. They're the only ones that don't know what the culture is. They don't have a culture. Everybody got a nation, right? We don't have a nation. Somebody say, well, we come from Africa. Well, let me explain this to you. Senegal is a beautiful nation on the African west coast of Africa. Many of our fathers were taken from that land. But the word Senegal did not come from people that are originally from that land. It did not come from Mizraim. It did not come from Ham. It did not come from Ethiopians. Well, who gave it the name Senegal? Well, notice what language they speak. French. Came from Europeans. What about Ghana? Ghana speaks English. Where'd they get that from? Europeans. What about Cameroon? French. What about Dominican Republic? Spanish. Puerto Rico? Spanish. Cuba? Spanish. All these Europeans. So we haven't had our own place. English? Jamaica. English? You didn't make up that. That's not your natural language. Because all of these languages show us who our captives were. Who our captives were. Okay, they show us who our captives were. Y'all can't hear? Okay, let me try it one more time. Hold on. Yeah, it's fighting me. It's fighting me. Hang on. Yeah, it's fighting me. We're about to up this part and go to the next part. But we're getting all kind of fight here. It's all good though. Praise the Most High. It's all good. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2. Okay. Praise the Most High. Yeah. So whosoever shall call on the name of Yahweh shall be saved. He's quoting Joel chapter 2, which was a word to the Israelite nation. If you remember Joel chapter 2, thank you, Tanya, for that. Glad to hear that. If you remember the word to the Israelite nation, that was Joel chapter 2. Okay. So when he says whosoever, he's not talking about everybody on earth. He's talking about the Israelite people, and through them, as Paul is writing, he's the apostle to the Gentiles, through them to the Gentiles. Because Paul is a Hebrew, he's writing to the Gentiles. Okay. Okay. This is a different perspective than what we have been taught as when we were Christians. It's different. It's important too, because it's the truth. Okay. It's the truth. So we're going to pause here. I'm going to pause here. Praise the Most High. I'm going to pause here. Let me do this here. Pause here.